Welcome to The Human Code, the podcast where technology meets humanity, and the future is shaped by the leaders and innovators of today. I'm your host, Don Finley, inviting you on a journey through the fascinating world of tech, leadership, and personal growth. Here, we delve into the stories of visionary minds who are not only driving technological advancement, but also embodying the personal journeys and insights that inspire us all. Each episode, we explore the intersections where human ingenuity meets the cutting edge of technology, unpacking the experiences, challenges, and triumphs that define our era. So, whether you're a tech enthusiast, an inspiring entrepreneur, or simply curious about the human narratives behind the digital revolution, you're in the right place. Welcome to The Human Code. I have with me Greg Carman. The man is a legend. Just going off of his bio, he has 7 exits. He's focused on VEPE growth. The man has a new startup as well that is leveraging AI that will help to bridge the gap between taking actionable results and insights from the information that already exists in your business. Greg, I know that I'm not giving anything that you've done any justice. So I'm just going to open it up and ask you, how did you get to be the person that you are today?
Well, thanks, Don. It's nice to be here. I think like a lot of us, I've been in technology for 30 years, and I think there's often this view that there's a straight line. It was early success, continued success, and you just go. And that certainly isn't my journey. There are the highest of highs, the lowest of lows, an average trend up, but it's a journey that you're on. It started 30 years ago as a developer. We were working on some really cool technology at the time, but you think about it, it was rather basic. We were migrating data and systems from mainframes to server-based systems, and we were creating graphical user interfaces that were otherwise being done on green screen terminals. So it was a real breakthrough in technology. And from there, I was okay at it, but from there, I started dabbling in a little bit of sales work. I was involved in a startup. I was like employee number 126, but I was also in my early 20s, but they needed help with sales. And that sort of became my calling. And I had a really successful early career in enterprise sales. I was fortunate enough to have some people who believed in me and promoted me into enterprise sales in my mid-late 20s when all my peers were in their 40s and 50s and 60s. And I had a lot of success there. And then I had the opportunity for about 17 years to work with a core group of people at a variety of different businesses, but these are real luminaries and innovators in the world of tech. And they taught me a lot of what to do and a lot of what to avoid. And I was blessed with that experience. And then over the last 10 years, I found myself in key leadership roles, go-to-market leadership roles in early stage businesses. And how I got here is there were 7 good exits, couple complete failures, and a couple middlings that just never really took off, but still exist. And I decided that it was time to actually be the founder and the CEO and to actually be responsible for the opportunity, the vision, the culture, and the overall direction of the company. So that's how I got here. 30 years is a heck of a long time. And I hope I have another couple decades to go by impacting this industry.
I hope you do as well. Now, making that transition from developer to enterprise sales and now to CEO as well. And I appreciate that you brought up not just the success, but the failures. In this latest revision and in this world that we have today, what has been refreshing? What has been a challenge for you? Where have you grown?
I think what's refreshing is the ability to start from being a lay person in a particular subject or capability to being a skilled person, the tools that are available out there to find the subject matter, to find the content, to become capable and eventually a novice and then an expert in it. The tools are just so much better than they were 10 years ago and certainly better than they were 30 years ago. 30 years ago, we were still going to the library to actually do a lot of research. The actual library is amazing. The thing I learned though is you have to have an innate interest in learning. You just do. You may not have it right now in your career, but at some point you must possess it. All right. You must possess that innate interest in learning more about the profession that you're in. And the other thing is trying to understand some pattern recognition in what am I good at a macro level, a real high level, and how does that relate to specific job functions? And is there a path for me to apply what I'm really good at to those specific job functions? And the last most important thing is surrounding yourself with people that believe in you, but also are experts in their field, people that are better, stronger, faster, smarter than you. And if you can accomplish that, at least in my experience, then you're going to be able to get through this journey.
I really do like the continued learning that you talked about. I think it's one of those skill sets that I can also say has helped me in my career. A lot of people we talk to as well. Do you see that this is with really the explosion of AI, and AI's explosion has been going on for 10 plus years now, but really in the last year and a half, people are starting to see that usability impacts on a more personal level. Do you see the skill sets needing to change along with that? Or is it more just, you're going to end up learning a lot more, a lot faster, or it's going to be actually, I'm just going to turn it over to you.
I subscribe to the idea, don't know if it's right or wrong, but this is the notion I subscribe to, that AI for most of us and most businesses, in combination with human cognitive ability, will result in better, faster, stronger, will result in less risk being taken, more reliable outcomes. Could be for your personal life, could be for your professional life, could be for the company's direction. So with that in mind, that in combination with our cognitive abilities, I think that AI is bigger than, but of the same magnitude as the breakthrough of the Mosaic browser in 1994 from the University of Illinois. I really do. It's of that level. And the reason is because its ability to be a part of everything to make us more productive, more efficient, more accurate, more effective is pretty much evident to me and to a lot of people that I surround myself with. But I think that means that we have to become well-versed in how we can apply it to our business, to our life. And that's where one set of education. But the other thing that I've learned along the way, and it goes with all these setbacks in career, ups and downs that come with career, and that is its expertise comes with the combination of repetitions and time. And early in my career, I didn't respect the importance of the time dimension. And I believe every type A, energetic professional in the first decade of their career falls victim to that. But you have to have the repetitions and the time in order to develop the expertise. And that expertise coupled with AI results in a very good combination.
I can completely buy into that. And along the lines of the way that I teach my team now is, for developers, we all have coding assistants, right? That AI is more like it's your partner, but it's more along the lines of your intern. And so you're going to give it tasks that sit along the lines of, I need to stub out this code, go ahead and take care of it. But you're always giving that cognitive review of that work. Whereas for me personally, marketing hasn't been one of my strong suits. And so when I'm working with an LLM and asking questions like, let's say, Perplexity AI, I'm looking for it more to guide the discussion and take more of a leadership role where I can help to fill in the gaps and then also add contextual information to whatever we're working on. But it is that partnership that you're going after, in which it's not just a delegation or push it aside, but the real lift that we've seen from creativity and also from even productivity has been that collaborative approach to both sides. I think 2023 was really the year of the LLM. What do you see 2024 shaping out to be?
I think 2024 becomes one of the first mass adoptions of the combination of these LLMs with pragmatic, day-to-day capabilities in businesses and in our personal consumer lifestyles. So going beyond just help us write a better email or help us write a better article or help us write a better piece of code, but actually getting into better decision making, better next course of action, better risk mitigation behavior.
Yeah.
And I think that's really where we're headed. Imagine if we go from this capability that we've seen, help us write better code, better articles, better emails, and we translate that into better decision making at a small, medium-sized business. That the business using large language models can scour all of its data analytics capabilities, all of its insights, usually to the tune of about 1,300 recommendations a month. It's insane. And then to be able to identify precisely, here are the areas that you can take action on next, because the large language models went through all of it and recognized the best patterns for you that matched your business circumstances. And now you can spend less money and incur lower risk to try to get the outcomes you're achieving. I think that's what 2024, we'll start to see the first big breakthroughs in that. It'll be that ability to apply it to a pragmatic scenario that results in better outcomes. And again, you can translate that into diet and weight loss in your personal life. You can translate that to travel and itinerary in your personal life. The same thing. Massive large language models applied to pragmatic scenarios, resulting in better outcomes.
I love that. And also you are taking a rather, not, I don't want to call it completely unique, but there is a very unique approach that you're looking at to really agentic solutions. And it's about the reasoning and the logic that can come about from a tool that can look at something that is 1,300 recommendations and help you decide what are the 3 that I can implement today or implement in the next
based
month
on my
that would
actual
have the
circumstances. So
Exactly.
you look at all of the analytical insights juxtaposed with all of your current circumstances, and then help me recognize the patterns, just a few things, because our mind can accept a handful of patterns at once to make choices from. And the advances in AI and large language models, I think, give us the opportunity to real pragmatic applications to that. You can apply that into shop floor automation for industry. What is the next best course of manufactured products that we should run based on the circumstances of our supply chain and our business and in the demand? And again, this is happening at the largest enterprises in the world today because they have the resources to apply to it in curated bespoke solutions, but to then bring that to the masses on a consumer level, and the masses on a small mid-market level, to level that playing field. I think that's what 2024 has to offer. I think 2025 and 2026 will see massive breakthroughs in that capability. I think you're going to see a hockey stick approach to it in terms of, we'll look back when the clock strikes midnight on January 1st, 2026, we'll look back and say, imagine that. It's going to go back to the days of, can you imagine 25 years ago how we used to wait in line at the airport with our calling card from MCI World Cup, waiting for our turn to spend 20 minutes on the phone listening to voicemail and replying? That was it. Can you imagine 25 years ago, we would connect to a 14.4 dial-up modem at a hotel, start our Lotus Notes to download all of our emails, leave for 3 hours for dinner, come back hoping that download was done so that we could respond to everything, and then spend 3 hours uploading when we were falling asleep? We couldn't imagine. I think this is what we did. And I believe January 1st, 2026 or sometime sooner, we will look back and say, it was crazy how we used to do it. It's crazy.
And it's one of those, we're of a generation that we grew up without a phone, right? Like we didn't have tablets. We really only, there was a couple things on TV. You were recording it live if you were doing anything else. And if you missed it, you
missed it.
Catch from somebody else. Yeah, exactly. You missed it. I agree with you. We're in one of those transitionary moments that is going to forever change how we interact with devices and how we actually move forward. You look at what the team at Rabbit is doing, and then countless other startups are looking at how you actually interface with the device on a regular basis to give you that extra set of eyes and ears. And really what you're talking about is from a business component, being able to do the same. And like a business has different senses than an individual person, but they're still there.
Well,
Uh,
I think what's so exciting is I think we're going to start to turn a corner and then all of a sudden it'll be there where we will start to be able to ask systems versus just store information in systems. And right now we're still at that point where we store information in systems and we automate processes and systems, but to actually seek advice from a system using natural language, I think that's that corner we're starting to turn. And then we'll look back and say, can you imagine that? We just used to use our computer to store information. Can you imagine that? It was just a file repository. Really?
that is the impressive thing. I think we are moving forward towards that world that you're describing. And as we look at it from, you're creating 10 years ago, and we're still talking about today, the value of data, right? Data being the oil of the business. And we talk to a few companies every week that they're still at that point where they're just collecting data. They're not turning it into information that they can take action on, but they see the value in gathering the information, but they don't have the resources to go through and find out what's valuable in it. Larger corporations can take the time to take data, turn it into information that then turns into knowledge and wisdom throughout the organization. But that smaller organization usually is either running too fast on a growth curve to really take advantage of it, or doesn't have the resources necessary to make those decisions. And we're hopefully seeing the democratization of that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I really do. It's where we're headed.
Yeah. So we got a shared path that we're going down. I know that you've got some exciting things that you're working on and it sounds like that's going to bring us towards that future as well. Where do you see what excites you about your opportunities ahead of you? And yeah, let's start there.
What excites me is I think the ability for technology to have a recurring impact on our client businesses. And when I think about clients, I think about businesses. That's just where I've spent my 30-year career, is in a business to business setting. But I think our ability to have recurring impact that is more intuitively linked to our technology without debate, I think is where I get most excited. So for example, over the last many decades, when you deliver a solution for a client and they use your product for years, there's always this sort of the vendor. We think we have a certain amount of value attributed to our product. The client thinks it's something different, and various people within the client thinks it's various different levels. But I think that our ability, either through causation or correlation, either way, I think our ability to actually have a transparent linkage that's part of the product use journey about the actual impact that's being made, I think is going to become more and more a part of the products and will become less and less of a debate. So we can all see that if you were to remove a certain decision-making apparatus from your technology stack, that you are going to no longer have visibility to certain levels of impact that have come as a direct result of that. Because it's a direct result because you've been selecting those choices and you've been tracking their outcomes and monitoring the performance over time. I think it's that sort of thing that I get really excited about, because if we can stop debating the impact and start to focus in client interaction, start to focus on what is necessary to be present in your technology, your solution offering for a client to get maximum recurring impact. We can spend more time on that and less time on debating on what's been the historical impact. I think that everybody's going to be better served. I think the client's going to be better served. I think the vendor's going to be better served. I think the overall macroeconomics of the marketplace will be better served because we'll be elevating the capabilities and the impact of the product. And then, oh, by the way, if you really want to go one layer above that, overall GDP of industries and countries will be better served because we're going to be driving greater productivity at less expense with less risk incurred. In other words, more reliable outcomes.
That's a really solid place to go, because if you think about, if I implement a new CRM, I'm likely going to get like a 15% bump in sales, just making those. But it really comes about setting up the processes, setting up the workflow, getting things moving in a way that creates more repeatability in the
Hmm.
business. But that's a very linear type of growth, right? Like I'm not seeing 15% year over year growth just based on that technology. The technology you're talking about and the integration of AI logic and reasoning capabilities into this not only allow you to get that initial 15%, but then to also identify the areas where you can get an additional 10%, an additional
Yeah.
15% as well. And that's a really exciting thing because you are, like you're saying, you're going to see this rise through as far as what businesses are doing. And let's take it back to the country and GDP level. You can now attribute that growth directly to the productive machine that is helping to make those decisions. What do you think the world looks like when, let's say, 30% of our GDP is generated by AI?
Well, I'm sure for many big thinkers in technology, they're going to give you an answer. I'm not there. I'm going to oversimplify and trivialize it. I think that just like with the advent of the browser and what we now know as e-commerce and cloud-based computing, I think we will see greater productivity gains. I think we will see a change in academic study and skills that become more in need than you might have seen before. So if you press rewind 30 years ago, what was really important to come out of college if you wanted to get into a programming environment was learn how to learn and or learn a specific coding language. And then when you got into industry, if you knew how to learn something new and if you had the basics of programming, they would teach you COBOL or something like that. All right. COBOL, or if you're in engineering, Fortran. But then today, as a result of the browser, as a result of e-commerce and cloud-based computing, data science, data analytics, AI machine learning skills coming out of undergraduate and graduate programs have become prevalent. So I think the future looks like we're probably going to be skilling in other areas that I can't entirely predict. There are others that can do that. And I think we're going to see productivity gains go up. And I think that organizations that are adopting a hybrid or a combination of the use of this collection of AI, large language models, machine learning, generative, that whole thing with supercomputing capabilities in the background, those organizations that are taking advantage of that are probably going to be the most profitable, most successful, most rewarding places to work. Just like we saw 25 years ago with the advent of the Mosaic browser.
I love bringing it back to that because it's an odd memory of remembering the first time that I was using the Mosaic browser. And it was something that felt incredibly powerful, but also at the same time, rather mundane in its original use.
Yeah.
Yet you felt that all of the internet was there available for you
Yeah.
to go and find, and whatever information could possibly be out there will soon be within a finger's
Right.
touch.
And there were a few people in select organizations who became more skilled at creating internet based experience, browser based experience than others. And there were a few companies like Netscape who really broke through with some capabilities to help businesses and small businesses alike to be able to take advantage of it. But I think now, because of all these other infrastructure capabilities we have, our ability to rapidly get broader adoption and skill capabilities, I think are going to be there. Or I think we're going to be on full display, but I think you still can't avoid the fact that it's going to be more mundane, like you said at first, a lot of error prone capabilities at first. We're going to talk in a certain vernacular that is quickly going to become acronym based and is going to become like just more readily accepted and adopted by the masses, but it takes time. It's going to take time, but I do think that the curve will look differently because of all the other infrastructure that we have in place that we didn't have in place in 1994. We were still going to the library in 1994.
Which is amazing. Like I started programming probably around 12,
Same.
13.
Yeah.
Yeah. You pick this stuff up and I tell a story. One of my CTOs, I've known her for 10 years now in person, but she she's had an impact on my career for the last 30 years because she wrote the technical manuals for Microsoft Visual Studio 1.0. And that was one of my like first major IDEs that I got. And at the time that was on floppy disks, right? So you got to get a big box. It has about 1,000, 1,500 pages of documentation that physically come with it.
Somebody had to write that documentation. Somebody had to edit and approve that documentation too.
Yeah. Exactly. All of that work that goes, and it has to be done right the first time. We get away with publishing something on the internet and then going back and making updates and seeing how people go. But that process was like, you're going to print this out. It's got to be part of the packaging. It's got to be done beforehand. And it has to match up with what it was actually released.
And you had to have the manufacturing in place to be able to copy the disc, box the disc, make sure it's.
Which one of the examples that I give is like in the 1980s and 90s, in order for me to generate $10 million in revenue, I likely needed a team of 50 people. Mid 2000s to the 10s, I could get away with 3 or 4, right? Most outsourced service, cloud providers, service platforms, thankfully the Mosaic browser led the path. We could do 3 or 4 people and build a $10 million business. We're now in the realms of who's going to build the first $1 billion single person business?
Yeah.
And I think that we're seeing some of that where AI can take a lead or AI can take the production side of it. But the skill set of combining this and working with it, like whether it's a collaborator, a partner, or helping you with strategy and more of a manager of the business, that's coming together. And so I'm excited to see how people tie all of this frameworks into one little beast.
Right. It's interesting. You talk about the one person $1 billion business. I think you're right. The ability to have fewer people to get there is going to be it's going to be a couple milestone breakthroughs that we're going to, report on. I also think though that in many ways we've lost sight of how you can survive and thrive in an early stage business without having to raise so much money. There's like this, there's this sadistic, almost perverted way that we've contorted ourselves lately. I remember 8 years ago was the first time I got visibility into how you'd fundraise and made fundraising. You raise $1 million and you would build your initial product, your first couple customers, and then you'd raise 5 or 6 million. And then you would probably never raise again until you went IPO when you had a $20 to $35 million run rate, which to translate for those of us that don't know what that means, that meant that you had a quarter where you did at least 5 million in the quarter. And because of the way that we delivered stuff, we would recognize all the revenue and whatever shipped out the door by the end of that quarter. It wasn't recognized over time. It was recognized then. And, but we figured out a way to do it. And we didn't have all this infrastructure. We had to buy all the infrastructure with all that, with the $6 or $7 million that we raised in total capital. And it's not like we were driving profitable businesses. Sometimes we were, but mostly not. But at the end of the day, it was still about this frugality, this sort of scarcity. We have limited resources versus get as much money as you can. Let's raise a pre-seed and then a seed and then an A and then a B and then a B-2 and then a C and then a C-2 and a C-3. And oh, by the way, let's raise a D. People are raising F funds. And you just say, wow, but there's a reason why we've adopted that mentality. I just think that we've lost sight. There's another way to do it that wasn't totally flawed.
I have some very strong opinions in this matter. But I completely agree with you that raising funds for startups has separated itself from the actual economics of the business.
Right.
And that's been happening for a while.
Like a 20-year trend. And I think we finally hit that crucible moment of it failed for both sides of the transaction.
Exactly. And I think what you're getting at is as we're looking at these smaller teams, that we need to be taking a look at what is that capital need that can be necessary to actually grow, scale this business. And then on the other side, I think it's also incredibly important for the individuals that are involved to feel that their purpose is aligned with that business.
Right.
And as we continue to go through the educational phases of AI has come and it's eliminated this job, and there's going to be additional training that person needs. Having an understanding in the workforce that like people are going to not just job hop, but really career hop
Yeah.
on a regular basis to be delivering something that is either of their heart's desire, but really what the market is needing at this moment. And that's going to be a really cool transition to be a part of. Now you have variety in what you can do.
Mm.
I would imagine stints
Yeah.
in locations where like the building of businesses can be happening at a much greater clip. Those productivity gains that you were talking about, as well as if I had a software tool, I had to go learn that software tool before.
Mhm.
And even today we were playing around. I was playing around with Adobe Premiere. I had to learn that tool. Whereas we're now going to get into the realm of the tool learning how to work with us.
Yeah.
And that can be
No,
very
I think
powerful.
you're right. And this idea that some jobs are going to become less prevalent, but other jobs are going to become more prevalent, and jobs we haven't conjured up yet are going to become more prevalent. 20 years ago, we weren't trying to figure out who was going to be our data scientist. At least I don't recall having those conversations 20 years ago. And gosh, 8 years ago, it became the hottest job in the market. Hottest job.
Yeah.
Couldn't find enough people. Needed more people coming out of university that were skilled in it. So I think that we're going to see that, but I also think that means we can in some ways be more capital efficient. Right now, with some of the gains you can get by being able to get broad-based, high-quality coding frameworks with fewer developers having to develop those, and then having humans interact or review the code and quality of the code and compile it and deploy it. I think things like that, you can translate that into sales, you can translate that into marketing, you can translate that into legal and finance. I'm not sure that there are many departments in a tech company that are going to be absent some sort of impact.
No, and I think one thing I love about being in this industry is being surprised on a regular basis. If you were to ask me which jobs were getting automated 2 years ago, I probably would have steered towards blue collar. And I was definitely heavy on self-driving cars being the biggest impact that we would see in the next couple of years. And then you see how LLMs, just the emergent qualities that came about as they got bigger, like we're now seeing that everybody is on the, not chopping block isn't the right description
Being
for it, but
impacted.
every job, is going to be impacted. Okay, perfect. Greg, I absolutely love speaking with you today.
Been a
You have
pleasure.
a very solid thought process about how you're looking at this and like where it could be impacted and applied today, as well as where it's going. And that's very healthy to see in this world of which we can always talk about the pie in the sky, but like, how do we get there? Like, where's the actual first step? And I really feel that you connected that for me and also for the audience today. Is if anybody has any questions for you, is there a place for them to reach out to you?
Absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn. People can also reach out to me at my email address at any time at my company, Cheapsite. So Greg with 2 G's at cheapsite.ai. That's chief as in chief officer and site, SIGHT.ai.
I love that. That's a great name for the company and what you're doing at Chief Site. Everybody go and check it out, chiefsite.ai. And as we wrap things up, again, Greg, thank you.
Thank you, Don. I really appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me.
Not a problem. Thank you for tuning into The Human Code, sponsored by Findustries, where we harness AI to elevate your business. By improving operational efficiency and accelerating growth, we turn opportunities into reality. Let Findustries be your guide to AI mastery, making success inevitable. Explore how at findustries.co.